Hey guys, Cody here. I'm incredibly excited to be back in today to be talking more about some amazing supplements. And again, I have Dr. Jesse with us. Dr. Jesse, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. How are you, Cody?
Great, great. It's exciting to, of course, have you here again chatting about the benefits of supplements and what they actually do for your body. So many people just read articles from who knows who wrote them, and it's really kind of cool hearing from a medical professional how supplements actually change your life, especially knowing how many medical professionals out there kind of poo-poo on supplements, even though they make massive differences in your life. We got a short one today. I just want to kind of dive in to kind of go into turmeric a lot and learn more about the science of turmeric. I know you have questions for me about our turmeric and what we do, so we can kind of just get rolling. Where would you like to start?
Yeah, you know what? I think the easiest place to start would be, why did you guys even decide to come out with a turmeric supplement in the first place? What was the motivation behind that? And just talk me through that process.
Yeah, turmeric. So turmeric is just one of those things that back in 2016, it was not a supplement that was being sold highly readily available, right? For anybody who doesn't understand what turmeric is basically just a root, and it is used in mostly curry, right? So anytime you see a curry meal, it's that orange kind of color, and that's where it's coming from. Turmeric itself has a compound in it called curcumin, and that's what really all the benefits do come from. And so what happened was in 2015, 16, my dad was going through some health issues. He had a lot of pain, a lot of injuries, and it was just kind of a big struggle for him. And we went to the doctors once, and he came back, and the doctor had told him, you should be eating turmeric to reduce inflammation. And that just set off this spark in my mind of research and trying to understand myself, what could be good for my dad and myself in my life, so that number one, I don't end up unhealthy like him when I might turn 60, but number two, to help my dad as well. So that kind of idea came from that one spark, what a doctor had said. And then after that, I was seeing my brother on a family trip in Mexico, and we were just talking about, what is the next big thing? What's the thing that's going to help change more lives than any other product out there? And we kept just coming back to turmeric over and over and over again. And so I came home from that vacation with this new fire inside me. Number one, I want to help my dad. Number two, I want to make my life healthier. And number three, I want to be able to help other people get access to something that wasn't readily available at the time. So I went crazy trying to find different manufacturers, and we can kind of talk more about that later. But I eventually found an amazing partner that has an amazing product, and we were able to fine tune it the way that works best for us, and kind of go from there. So it's a lot of love it started out with, for my family, and of course a little bit of fear inside of wanting to make sure I can remain as healthy as possible. But I think the idea just kind of came because there was a idea around 2015 of this reducing inflammation within the body. And I decided that was going to be something I really wanted to focus on. And it's since helped my dad, myself, and probably tens of thousands, if not 100,000 plus people so far. We've managed to get a lot of turmeric in a lot of people's hands.
That's amazing. I mean, your story with turmeric is much different than mine. I was in a research lab surrounded by, like chemistry heavy intensive labs, surrounded by those looking at antiparasitics. And then in our lab, we're focused mainly on natural health products. So the key invigilator in our lab, Dr. Siram Pandey, was working with curcumin. He was working with dandelion root extract. And he was my intro into the natural health realm, because as far as I was concerned, I was embedded in science, and I looked at, natural health products as outside of science. And I look back and I can't believe how wrong I was. But it's just interesting seeing how everyone finds their way over to turmeric, because it is something that I think most people can benefit from, including in their daily lives.
Exactly. So yeah, you're talking about research and science. Let's get into that, right? I'd love to learn more about the science from you. I know everyone who's listening right now would be really interested in that as well. So can you kind of walk through what is the science behind turmeric? We want to know the health benefits. What benefits can I or any generic person expect from turmeric? And I think the most important part is how to incorporate your diet. Is it something that we should be having throughout the day? Is it something we should be eating the raw product, having just a supplement by itself, having it in formats like tea or powder or whatever it may be? I'd love to kind of learn from you what the science taught you when you were doing your research.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you mentioned already, curcumin is the chemical compound that you get out of the turmeric root, or the curcuma longa plant. And what's so cool about this is that you can almost Google any health benefit you want to, and curcumin will likely pop up as having that listed underneath it. And the reason being is that, for one, it's an incredible anti-inflammatory and antioxidant. And we know inflammation impacts so many body systems, not just our mood, our digestion. It can increase your risk of chronic health conditions like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, even cancer. One of the problems, however, with curcumin is that if you just take it raw, like the root, for example, if you were to grind that up, it's very poorly bioavailable. Your body can't use everything that it takes in, so it needs a bit of help in most cases. So the one that we've put together includes bioperine, which is black pepper extract, which can increase its absorption by up to 2,000% in some studies that show. So not only are we able to reduce the inflammation and even the reactive oxygen species that are produced, these two factors are kind of intertwined. Like inflammation can increase reactive oxygen species, which are kind of these free radical oxygen molecules that can attack DNA and cellular structure and wreak havoc all across the body. But in the same way, those reactive oxygen species can contribute to the promotion of more inflammation. So the way curcumin works is that it's able to manage systemic or whole body reactive oxygen species. Not only does it increase the activity of several enzymes, which are able to quench and reduce the level of those reactive oxygen species, but it's also what's called a chain-breaking antioxidant. In most cases, these pesky reactive oxygen species can go from one molecule to another and propagate. They continually produce more reactive oxygen species. But with curcumin, it's able to stop that in its tracks, and it results in fewer reactive oxygen species, less inflammation. So I know I've talked a bit about inflammation ad nauseum. So what does that really benefit you? Why would you want to reduce inflammation? There's been several studies looking at curcumin and pain, arthritis, anxiety, metabolic syndrome as well, even memory in some older individuals. And what they've all consistently found, well, I'll speak specifically with arthritis, for example. It's something that impacts, 250 million people every year. Is that not only are they able to reduce the pain, they're able to improve their physical function, gain more mobility, and increase range of motion. And it has a similar activity actually to anti-inflammatories like ibuprofen, for example, or diclofenac, but with less side effects. So less of that stomach upset. And so for many people, it could be an alternative to taking that therapy. Now, I mentioned a couple other things as well, but I want to pause and see if you have any questions for me too about what I've just said.
No, I mean, everything makes a ton of sense what's going on so far, and it kind of lines up what I was learning about as well. It's really about making sure you're reducing that inflammation in the body and getting the best way possible. One thing I do want to point out to people that I heard the word bioperine before. Bioperine is actually a trademarked company, right? Every time a bottle of something with bioperine goes out, they have to pay a money to that company. It's used in children healthcare, senior healthcare. It's used in meals. It's used across the board. It's a massively studied way to get the body to absorb nutrients. And it's crucial because so many things that we eat in our life can just shoot right through our body because our body's not designed to capture it in the amounts that we want our body to capture it at all times. So it's really crucial that a product that is hard to absorb has a mechanism that helps bring it in. And I just really wanted to just double down on that fact because it's a really important way for your body to be able to take it in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that I think is crucial. I wouldn't take a curcumin supplement without adding bioperine or adding some black pepper extract to it because it does make that much of a difference. Yeah. So I mentioned a bit about arthritis as well, but even if you're someone who's relatively healthy, you can still take curcumin as well. There was a study done about a few years ago with exercise participants who they would go and exercise and do a routine that was meant to give them a ton of muscle soreness in the next couple of days. And what they found was that not only was there biochemical changes, so there was less biochemical markers of inflammation and muscle soreness in these participants after the curcumin, but even subjectively. So between the different groups, they found that some people didn't feel as sore the next day. And so this could actually be something that can help with recovery in athletes as well. Now you were talking about powder and you were talking about teas too. There's so many different ways you can take curcumin. You can take it in the capsule, like the version that we have. You could also do a tea, which I think they're a bit more bitter. I personally, I know you are too, we're capsule guys. Sometimes I'll do smoothies, but not with my curcumin. Most of the times it's just in the capsule form. And I take it every day. It's something you can add to your daily diet. It's not something you have to cycle. I know sometimes people hear about certain vitamins you have to cycle or minerals. This is not one of those supplements. That's something that can be taken every day. And really just comes down to preference. Okay. So if you take a handful of capsules in the morning, you might consider just adding one or two more with the curcumin. And we could talk a bit about the dose later on as well. But
I do want to point out too, the reason why I like capsules, especially for turmeric is orange and it stains. So if anybody's ever picked up an actual turmeric root at the grocery store and just held it in your hands, your fingers turn orange like Cheetos. So it's one of those things where I want to kind of minimize that. And for anybody that's curious, in the actual manufacturing process in all these manufacturing facilities, they usually have one machine for turmeric because it stains the machine color and they don't want to have anything else done. So usually these big manufacturers will have like 30 or 40, 50 machines that do this stuff. One of them in the corner, it's just for the turmeric product, just because of this staining. So if you want to not have Cheeto fingers, maybe a capsule might be the easiest way of doing it.
It's a great point. Although I do want to point out, some people will find that their stool turns a bit more yellow or orange as well, especially if you're pushing the dose quite high. I don't push the dose as high as some people, but I've read studies rather that around the 4 to 5 gram range per day. That's the high end of the range. And then I would expect you 100% to have some discoloration in your stool, but something that's probably not worrisome.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely the staining is a big thing. Now, I had a question for you. I know we talked a bit about some of the benefits. I don't know if you want to talk a bit about the challenges or the considerations that went into formula. I know you mentioned that the specific manufacturing oftentimes is tailored to curcumin. Were there any other challenges from the manufacturing standpoint? Was it hard to source some of these natural ingredients? What was that like?
Yeah, definitely. So I think, for us, it was finding first off a partner that works. So if anybody wants to understand the supplement industry, there are a handful, maybe a dozen manufacturers out there that do, I would say 80% of the actual production of all supplements in the nation. So if you're buying something from Walgreens, Walmart, CVS, Amazon, chances are it comes from basically one of a dozen places. And these guys are gigantic. Some of them are so big they require orders in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of capsules at once, something that a small company can't get going. So it's kind of the idea of, the David and Goliath thing, right? These companies are so big, they're inhibiting the ability for innovators like us to jump in and create unique products because it's really complicated to do. So I actually came across one manufacturer who was a first of 3. So we've kind of evolved over time working with better and better people. And they had a particular supplement. I asked for the BioPrima to be added to it, and they were glad to do it. But the problem is they actually made a product that was almost 90% curcuminoids. So it wasn't turmeric root. It was just straight up curcumin. So much so that you took 1 capsule a day, not 2, and you're probably getting 2 or 3 times more than you actually needed. And as you might be able to help describe, having too much curcumin in your diet is sometimes upsetting the digestive tract, because this is food, right? Supplements are food. And so we had a handful of customers who had a little upset tummy issue that made them not leave their particular room in their house for a longer period of time than they might want to. And so that led down the avenue of, okay, well, how do we make something that actually gets the benefits but doesn't make people feel uncomfortable? Because we don't want to be setting off people's digestive system. And again, like, it didn't bother me. I used to take like 6 of those at once. And I was like, oh, cool. I trained all the time, worked all the time. It just made me feel better. But I wanted to make sure that everyone could benefit from it. So when I moved to a second manufacturer, the big concern I had was, how do we find a ratio that works? So I actually went to the manufacturing facility out in Utah, and I worked with the formulator based on articles of science she had and other products that she's produced before. And we came up with a blend of turmeric root and the turmeric, the curcuminoids, the actual curcumin that's distilled out of turmeric, along with, of course, BioPrima. So with that, we have a beautiful ratio now that allows for a highly effective product to work, but also not upsetting stomachs. And we've looked at other products too. Like, we did one for a while that had ginger in it. We did one for a while that had like 6 or 7 additional anti-inflammatory ingredients. But you know what? The feedback we got from everybody was kind of like, hey, keep it simple, right? All this extra shiny objects we're throwing in there to try and help people see differences weren't really doing much. They were just making the cost of the product more. And that's kind of why we've settled on this very straightforward formula that's proven. It works, day in and day out. We can get it to our customers at an incredibly awesome price. And it's safe, right? It's tested by our third-party labs, and we know it's good. We know it's not a bad product. We know there's not anything weird in it or strange. It's just quality. So that's kind of our little evolution to get there. And I think our main goal with this product and all of our products going forward is, how can we deliver basically, 80% of the value to you at like 50% of the cost, right? We may not be able to give you the fanciest thing on earth, but our goal is, of course, to be able to give you your maximum benefit that you need to improve your life at a cost that is completely affordable to anybody.
Yeah, that's a great point too. And you want to be able to trust what it is you're taking. So I said in our last talk as well, I only trust companies that do third-party testing because I think it is so important to make sure there's nothing nefarious happening. Because there are a lot of bad actors out there, let's say, that are committing, let's say, like essentially fraud when they're producing some supplements that they know are not up to par with what they're telling people is in it. So it makes a massive, massive difference when you know you can trust the company.
Yeah, I mean, just watched a documentary yesterday about people, companies who are putting quite literally over-the-counter drugs within supplements to try and give better benefits because they were lying the entire time about their product. So there's a lot of shady actors out there. Thankfully, we do not work with any manufacturer or any people that would do that kind of thing. But we want to make sure we're giving the real product to people, and that's just extremely important to me.
Well, and the important thing is too, like when I'm recommending a supplement such as curcumin to my patients, for example, and just to be clear, most of the time they're asking for it for pain. So like we talked about arthritis and just pain in general, curcumin is an incredibly effective analgesic. So at doses up to 2 grams, it's similar, if not the same as a strong anti-inflammatory like ibuprofen. But of course, like you said, without some of that stomach upset, unless you're taking the 99% curcuminoids. Does it have a slower onset? Maybe a little bit, probably not clinically significant. But when we're dealing with pain or when we're dealing with metabolic syndrome, which is a mix of insulin resistance and high blood sugar hypertension and obesity, as well as other high cholesterol levels. So a thing like metabolic syndrome, you don't want to be playing around with that. You want to make sure that what you're treating them with is exactly what you think it is. And even with, exercise like yourself, you said you were lifting all the time and taking it for that to help with the muscle soreness. You want to make sure that you're getting exactly what you think you're taking.
Yeah, I agree 100% what you're saying right now. It's so crucial and all that. So a few more questions for you. We kind of went over, dosages, like what is an optimal dose, especially with the product like we have, because obviously we're not doing the 99% curcuminoids that are upsetting tummy. So what's an optimal dose for the average person? And mind you, it just depends on your. Today we're talking about people who are average that don't have any medical issues and conditions. If you're that person, you probably need to be doing more and care of your life more, cutting out more things like sugar, cutting out more things like alcohol within your diet. But for the average person, what's something they should be taking on a daily basis so that way they can just make sure they're running on all cylinders correctly? I kind of think of this supplement and many supplements like just checking your car tire air pressure and making sure it's always at the right level. We're not having to go in and change the whole engine out or replace an axle. Like we're just making sure it's working at optimal conditions. So what's kind of a good dosage for that, and how should people be taking it?
So great question. Usually the dose I recommend people start with is around 1 gram a day or 1,000 milligrams a day. So you can split this up any way you want to. You can do 500 milligrams twice a day. You can even step it up to 1.5 grams. So 500 milligrams 3 times a day. I think that's a fantastic starting dose. You could even start a bit lower. I'm a big proponent of start low, go slow. So if you're thinking of going up to this 1.5 gram a day, you could start with just 500 in the morning. See how that feels. Next couple of days, you can add it to your lunchtime, and then you can add it eventually to supper time. But that's usually where I'll recommend drawing the line, is about 1.5 grams up to about 2 grams. That's my ceiling personally. And the best you'll get is when you take this, the best responses you'll get is when it also includes that black pepper extract or BioPerine. Those are the best case scenarios.
Yeah, definitely. So for all those out there who are really into taking your health through your food, make sure that you're adding that black pepper to your turmeric in your meals. Make sure that it is the right ratio. The ratio is about 5%, right? I think it's something almost lines like 3 to 5%.
Yeah. So usually if it's got 5 or 10 grams of BioPerine per dose, I'm happy with that. Like I was saying, this is not something that we're going to reinvent the wheel here with, but it is an incredible supplement that has overarching benefits, not just in pain, not just arthritis, but metabolic syndrome. Could also help with memory as well, especially in older adults. There's some really great studies that have come out in the last decade or so, showing that taking curcumin improves their working memory. It improves their awareness and their attentiveness to a task. So all things that when you want to age gracefully, there are things you want to include like this. Aging gracefully is incredibly important to me. I'm not quite at an age where I would say I'm aging, but I certainly am thinking about it. I'm conscious of the fact that one day I will be there. So I want to try and set myself up for the best case scenario. And this is something I include because of that.
I love it. All right. I appreciate you coming out again today, giving us some more information about supplements, giving us an actual medical understanding of it. It's really amazing to have a medical professional again that understands and believes in the power of supplements. So thank you again for sharing. Anybody has any questions, feel free to reply and let us know. Otherwise, thank you again, Dr. Jesse. We will have you back again to talk more because this is a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thanks, Cody. I appreciate you.